You know, last weekend, a movie that was certified fresh by Rotten Tomatoes officially made its debut in theaters. This, of course, was Atomic Blonde, the Charlize Theron movie. And say that this movie uh, pretty much got people talking would be an understatement. Because it didn't just get people talking, oh no, 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 no. It got people talking about one specific moment in the movie. Now, this moment was shown off in the Red Band trailer. People at several video streaming sites have already found a way to kind of upload it to the internet. This, of course, is the lesbian sex scene in Atomic Blonde. Now, long story short, in case you haven't heard, Charlize Theron fought for the lesbian sex scene, I think, to be added in. Now, her, the writer, and the director, and I think even the producer, met up behind the scenes and basically agreed, I should say, that the one way they could add a twist to this adaptation of this UK graphic novel was to give the Atomic Blonde character herself a love interest. Now, from what I understand, in the original UK version, the UK graphic novel, she never had a love interest. She never had any kind of love interest of any kind. Basically, she'd probably have a fling here and there, a la James Bond, and that was it. She would, like I say, have a fling a la James Bond, and that would be it, primarily. She would, and then she would just go from there. That's essentially what her character was. Like I said, essentially that's what her character was. She just had a fling, and then that was it, a la James Bond. But here, they decided to take it a step further. Instead of having her be like James Bond in that manner, they decided she was going to have she was going to have an actual love interest. Not a one-time deal, but somebody she would actually commit to. Now, that is one thing to do in a movie. You know, it's one thing to have a lesbian love interest, or if you look at it on the opposite side, a gay love interest. So, with that said and pointed out, it's kind of rare for a movie like this to not only indicate that that's happening, that's occurring, if you will, you know, that relationship between a woman and a woman or a man and a man. But it's another to take it a step further, even if it's brief. Like I mentioned earlier, this scene has been uploaded several times already on the internet, and it was shown or kind of teased at in the Red Band trailer. Not only was it teased at in the Red Band trailer, but it became one of the more talked about scenes to come out of the movie. And when I talk about one of the more talked about scenes, I'm talking about the fact that even though the movie apparently was good and was labeled with a certified freshness by Rotten Tomatoes, but despite that, the one thing people kept talking about more so than the story itself, or the plot of the movie itself, was this scene. The reason being because here you had two actresses, one in Charlize Theron, and the other actress, I think her first name is Sophia. She appeared in the Star Trek movies. The one thing that got people's attention about it was the fact that these were both straight actresses. And what I mean by straight, in other words, they had husbands or they had boyfriends. And for them to do something like this was kind of surprising. it got a lot of people talking. Now, like I said, Charlie Theron fought for this scene to be in there. And from what I understand, and from what I've read, Sophia said that thanks to Charlie Theron, she felt comfortable doing the scene. She felt at ease. Now, that might be great and all when one thinks about it, but I think what we have to look at is what this is going to lead to in the future. Just drinking some coffee here. But like I said, what we got to worry about is what this may lead to in the future. And what I mean by leading to in the future, I'm practically talking about the fact that even though this is not the first time this has happened in animation, even though this is not the first time this has happened in animation, not animation, but in live action, I should say, even though this is not the first time this has happened in live action, especially live action R-rated films or TV 14 series, even though it's not the first time, and it probably won't be the last, what I'm talking about is what I'm trying to say is what we got to look at is the possible future of what this would lead to. Now, you might say, well, Brian, what are you getting at? What are you getting at? Well, I'll tell you what I'm getting at. Again, it's up to the discretion of the writer, the director, the producer, and even the actresses involved if they want to do something like this in the movie. Now, like I said, it's one thing for girl on girl or man on man to kind of be a very rare occurrence in a movie. It's one thing, okay? It's another though if this ends up becoming common. What I'm talking about is, I think what Hollywood has to look at, and the Motion Picture Association of America, whether we like them or we don't, has to look at, is the fact that sooner or later you're going to end up getting a slew of movies that one or two of those is going to go in the direction of, let's say, having a lesbian couple, or the opposite, if you know what I mean. And instead of them just kind of doing a brief scene, if you catch my drift, it ends up being full on, if you know what I mean. Ends up being full on. Now, like I said, it's not the first time this has happened in mainstream media, in mainstream movies or even television series. It has happened. But what we get is mainly what's known to the community, to the motion picture community, the movie-going community, as very soft core, if not extremely soft core. In other words, it looks like it's happening. In other words, it starts off like it's going to go in that direction. It looks like it's going to go in that direction, but then it's pulled back. In other words, just when it looks like it might be getting good in the eyes of some, that's when they pull back and they transition to mainly like an aftermath, or they transition to the next day in another scene. And again, this is not uncommon when they do, and it's not uncommon in movies when this happens. Okay, because it does. When they tease it, when they show it, they kind of back off a little bit after about a minute or so, and then they just say about a minute or two so, and then they just show you the aftermath, and they just transition to the next day. The point I'm getting at here is when you have an actor or an actress fighting to keep something in the movie, even if it's going to be brief, then you know deep down that this is just the start of something that not a lot of people are going to agree with in the long run. Because sooner or later, like I said, Hollywood and the Motion Picture Association of America is going to get hit with such a slew of movies, or an onslaught of movies, that one or two of them is going to go in the direction that Atomic Blonde did, and basically go beyond that. If it decides, hey, we need a certain scene in there, it's going to use that scene to go beyond what is usually what most people are, what most goers and critics are used to seeing. Should a same-sex relationship be indicated, what I'm afraid is going to happen is a movie's going to go a lot further than you can expect. What I'm getting at is everything people mention about late night Cinemax or late night Showtime and what have you. I feel sooner or later a movie's going to end up going in that direction with these same-sex relationships and that are portrayed on screen. And the reason I say that is because that is basically the direction that society is going in right now, especially with movies. You know, one thing that Doug Walker did in one of his Nostalgia Critic editorials was talk about and ask the question of whether the MPAA system was broken. The reason Doug brought that up in a video, as the Nostalgia Critic, was because he wanted to point out the fact that there were certain movies that had garnered ratings that they didn't need. He pointed out a movie like Drag Me to Hell ended up getting a PG-13 rating when in fact it should have been R. And it should have been proud of getting the R rating. And that something like, let's say, Inside Out should have got a G rating, but it ended up getting a PG rating, and it should have been glad just to get a G rating, or vice versa. Or a PG-13 movie should have been more of a PG movie and should have been glad to get a PG rating. He brought that up because I think even Doug Walker, as himself, as the Nostalgia Critic, looks at the possibility that we're heading in that direction. We are heading in a direction to where something like this could occur. Let me give you an example. There's no doubt that we might get a second Atomic Blonde movie. And if they decide to go in the same direction with Charlize Theron's character and have her end up in another same-sex relationship in the second film, don't be surprised if maybe they attempt to go to that next level. Don't be surprised if there's a suggestion at doing that. Because if you have someone like Theron's coming out and saying, hey, let's keep this scene in here, let's add to the same-sex relationship, and let's go to that next level and kind of tease it briefly, then you can only imagine what the director or the writer of a possible sequel will want to do if they go in that same direction again. Let me give you a better example. Okay? The 50 Shades series, the 50 Shades movies. The 50 Shades movies, when they come to theaters... Sorry about that, the mug hit the mic there a little bit, I apologize. Just getting me some coffee. But like I said, when the movie adaptations of the 50 Shades series have come to theaters so far this year and about a year or two ago, basically the first two, which was 50 Shades of Dark and 50 Shades Darker, or 50 Shades of Grey and then 50 Shades Darker than the next one. The reason they've always gotten an R rating is because, yes, it does contain strong sexual content. Yes, it does involve certain... what do they say? How do they call it? BDSM moments, if you will, or at least suggestive BDSM moments, as they say. But I want you to notice something. When these movies come to home video several months later, here's what happens. Okay? Several months later, when the movie comes out to home video, whether it's DVD, Blu-ray, 4K, you name it, you not only get the theatrical R-rated version on there, but you also get the unrated extended version. That's right, the unrated extended version. And when you look at the fact that you get both versions, and then you see that the unrated one, okay, basically when you end up getting both versions, and you see that okay, I can watch what I saw in theaters, or I can watch the unrated extended cut. You'll notice that underneath, that on the bottom of the slipcover or on the bottom of the cover of the DVD, Blu-ray, 4K, whatever, it'll say that it contains material not seen in theaters, which is a given, but it also will say that it contains stronger sexual contact moments and stuff that were not suited for theaters. In other words, it contains moments, scenes, and all that had those been included would have earned the movie, and maybe even its predecessor, 50 Shades of Grey, NC-17 ratings. Yeah, they would have been given NC-17 ratings instead of R. And the only reason they got R is to keep it from being an erotic movie and being more of a mainstream movie. I'm not saying that NC-17 movies are not mainstream. We've seen that. But what I'm getting at here, folks, is the fact that NC-17 doesn't get as much mainstream attention than R. So that's why when you get the movie on home video, you're always told that the unrated version you're getting is going to either have extended scenes or extended scenes and stuff that are going to contain material that were not suited for theaters. And what I'm getting at is and the reason I bring this up, and the reason this coincides with what Doug Walker said about the MPAA rating, and then you take a look at Atomic Blonde, what I'm getting at is the fact that sooner or later, what is considered NC-17, if not basically erotic material, is going to end up showing up in a mainstream R-rated film. That's the direction I feel we're heading in. Why do I say that? Because like I said, if you got someone like an award-winning actress in Charlize Theron coming out and saying, hey, I want this scene in there, and then you have the other actress she does it with saying that she felt comfortable doing it, and that Theron made her feel comfortable doing it, and then just what they showcase, like in the Red Band trailer, you can almost say that scene alone could pass almost for something you would see at late night, something that would be broadcast on late night Cinemax or late night Showtime. I mean, heck, I wouldn't be surprised if some people that went and saw this movie or went and, or wanted to see specifically this one scene, I wouldn't be surprised if some people ended up saying that the way the scene was filmed and the way the actresses got comfortable doing it, that the Sophia actress, like I said, who starred in the Star Trek movies prior to this, I wouldn't be surprised if they said that Sophia herself would probably be a good fit for the erotic late night movies that you would see on Cinemax, Showtime, or even on demand. Just for the fact that she kind of really gets into it, if you catch my drift. But then again, here's what's crazy about this whole scenario. This scene ended up being more talked about than the movie itself. The movie obviously was very good. It was certified fresh by Rotten Tomatoes. It sounds like it's been critically acclaimed, named as being a good movie. But what oversaturates that, or overshadows that, I should say, is people talking about this scene. But on top of that, now since the movie's been out, you have people talking about the scene and the fact that it was very brief. Like, you have people saying, oh, just when it was going to get good, they decided to cut it off. Really? So you're upset about that. You're upset at a scene that was probably more talked about than the movie itself, more hyped up than the movie itself, or that it's a part of. And now you're criticizing the fact that it was short? Well, here's the thing. You can't blame them. You can't blame the movie studios, the director, the writer, or the producers. You can't blame them for cutting it short. Because if they decided to keep going with that scene, then this would end up being an NC-17 movie and not R-rated. Same thing as 50 Shades of Grey. Now, there's probably no doubt in my mind, that when the movie ends up on home video later this year, that you're going to probably get an unrated extended cut, and that one of the extended cuts or one of the extended scenes is going to be that scene. There's no doubt about it. There's absolutely no doubt about it. But again, what makes me fearful is the fact that this could just be the start of something that really puts the MPAA on its toes. Because what I fear is going to happen, sorry about that, I had to do something there. But what I fear is going to happen sooner or later is you're going to get an R-rated film, maybe a slew of R-rated films that may go in this direction with the same-sex relationship, lesbian or gay or whatever, what have you. And basically what's going to happen is there's going to be a scene in there, a sex scene, if you will, between the same-sex couple, and it's going to go beyond just being a brief tease or just a brief, oh man, it's getting good, and all of a sudden it's cut off to go to another scene or transition to later on or whatever. It's going to, and basically what's going to happen is what I fear is going to happen is it's going to go beyond what it's supposed to, and it's going to end up becoming something that you would see late at night. And when this happens, what I feel is going to happen, the reaction I feel is going to happen is not only is it going to get the attention of a lot of entertainment news sites, it's going to get the attention of the news media, period, because you have this mainstream movie that you decide to put the scene in, that has the scene in it, and this is a scene that's basically straight out of a late night pornographic series or movie, and what's going to happen is a lot of news media, a lot of entertainment news media, and even certain communities like the LGBT are going to call the studio out. It's going to call the movie out. It's going to call the director, the writer out. It's going to call everybody involved with the movie or movies out about what they're doing. And what's going to occur is there's going to be a tone down on this kind of stuff. There's going to be a tone down on this kind of material, to where what's going to happen, just like in the past, is you may get a tease about it. You may get a same-sex couple cuddling and kissing on a bed, and then lying down, and then that's it. You transition maybe to the next day, or you transition to another scene that indicates, oh, they did it, but you don't really see them doing it. So that's what I feel is going to happen, because what I fear that's going to result in that happening is the fact that sooner or later there's going to be a movie or a few movies that's going to end up going beyond just what was teased in something like Atomic Blonde or elsewhere. That's what I feel is going to happen. Now you might say, nah, Brian, it won't happen. They won't allow that to happen. Oh, really? You realize how many movies in the past that have done a similar scenario like Atomic Blonde have almost come, I believe, this close to doing it, but have had to wait to maybe show it on an extended uncut home video release? A lot. So don't say it won't happen, because you know what? Sooner or later, it will. Sorry, I saw something there, but anyway, like I was saying, sooner or later, it will happen. You don't believe me? Trust me. Hollywood's going to have to start Hollywood themselves are going to have to start learning to tone it down, because sooner or later, it's going to happen. And people, I think, listening to this know it's going to happen. But then again, hopefully I'll be wrong, but I seriously don't think I will be. I think what's going to occur is you're going to end up having something like this happen in the future, And then, like I said, it's going to result in a lot of backlash from the news media, the entertainment news media, from the acting community, the Hollywood Guild of Actors and Writers. You're going to have a backlash coming from the LGBT pride community, LGBT communities and pride communities, indicating that it's gone too far, that they may be happy that same-sex relationships are being represented in the movies, but this is going a little too far. I feel that it's going to end up coming back to bite Hollywood in the back, in the butt, and in the back. I've got a feeling it's going to end up coming back to hurt them. I really do, because again, my fear is this right here. When you have someone like Charlize Theron fighting for a scene like this to be kept in, that's just the first step to basically something that you would see on late night Cinemax or HBO happening on the screen, on the big screen in theaters. I really do. And when that happens, because eventually it's going to happen, folks, you know it. What's going to happen is a huge backlash that's going to cause this kind of stuff to still be featured in movies and maybe even television shows, but toned down to the point that, you know, you'll go from one scene to maybe, like I said earlier, they're kissing and cuddling on a bed and then lying down with each other, but then that's it. You transition either to another scene, which would be like the next day, or you transition to later on where it's indicated that they did it, but you don't see it. So really, I just feel that's that's what's going to happen. I really do. I mean, because come on, if you're trying, because here's the thing. If you are going to try to tease going to that next level, what are you going to do to try to play it safe? Keep the actor, or in this case the actress that's a part of it. What are you going to do? Keep one of them under the sheet, making it look like getting it on with the person on with the kind of getting it on with the lover. That way, while the lover is exposed on the upper part or the upper portion, what are you gonna do? Keep the other one under the sheet where they look like a shapeless mass? I mean, what's the point of that? You think that's going to keep things safe? No, it won't. Because all it's going to do is make a lot of people look at the fact that, look at the fact that all you're trying to do is cover up, and it's not going to help you in the end. It really isn't. It really isn't going to help you in the end, because they're going to see through that. Because, again, what are you going to do? Make them go under the sheets and make them look like a shapeless mass? And heck, what's the point of that anyway? What's always been a point of that in these kind of scenes? What? Leave it up to the imagination? So the one that's above the sheets can role play and act like something's under there, but they know it's the lover or something like that. I mean, come on, seriously, what's the point? I never got that. But again, here's the thing. But again, like I said, here's the thing. Whether they do that, and that may help them, it's not going to help them in the long run, because sooner or later they may do that, and that might help them if they're trying to slowly take it to that next level. But when they do get to that next level, and they'll get to it, believe me, it's going to cause a huge negative backlash on them, to the point that, like I said, they're going to have to tone it down to where all you see is kissing and cuddling and maybe an indication in the next scene that they did something, but that's it. And that's all you're going to probably get. But again, in closing, let me say this, and I said it earlier, it's up to the discretion of the producers, the writers, the actors and actresses involved, and even the studio. Do they want to do that? Do they want to keep doing this? Or do they want to keep doing this with the eventuality that what's going to happen is that one moment's going to occur that's going to be basically stepping over the line, and it's going to cause a lot of backlash? Or a lot of studios out there going to be sensible enough to be like, you know what, we need to start toning it down because we might just be one movie away or one scene away in a movie with this kind of scenario of overstepping our boundaries. So hopefully hopefully a lot of studios from Warner Brothers, Universal, Sony, Lionsgate, hopefully they, and so on, hopefully they, and even some of the independent studios, hopefully they come to the senses, and even if they want to keep something like that in, and maybe even a brief scene of it, that they don't go over the top, because if they go over the top and they cross a boundary, they're going to get in so much trouble. And hopefully the MPAA has fixed itself right enough to the point that if a movie gets an R rating and it has a same-sex relationship and maybe a same-sex scene, that the R rating isn't a misconception and you end up getting, like I said, something that you would see late night on Cinemax or HBO on demand. So hopefully, studios come to the senses and start toning it down a little bit, because here's what's going to happen. Down the line, the actor and actresses involved, they may stand by what they say now. Now, like, oh, it's comfortable. It was great to do. I'm glad we stood. I'm glad we kept it in. And they may stand by what they say now a few months from now or a few years from now, but then again, those same actors and actresses may end up changing their mind and looking back on it will regret what they've done, and then possibly seeing what the end result could be in the future, may decide not to do it again. No matter what, no matter how much they're getting paid to portray to play a certain role, they may not want to do it again. So, but again, hopefully, in closing, a lot of studios will start toning it down, because if they don't, and the MPAA doesn't see beyond this, and they give a certain movie an R rating, they may end up getting more than just an R-rated film, if you know what I mean. So, let me know what you guys think down below. Comment if you like, and I'll talk to you later.